Hi, kia ora, and welcome to Creative Connections, where we have beautiful, inspiring conversations with artists living in Aotearoa, New Zealand. I'm your host, Mandy Jakic. Leigh Stewart is a multimedia artist living in Wellington, Aotearoa, New Zealand. Katie's paintings explore floral landscapes, portraiture, everyday life, and nature. Her bright and bold palette, as well as signature brushstrokes, give viewers a moment to pause and find joy. In this episode, Katie talks about her early nursing career and how she finally came to focus on her artist career as a new mum. We explore her paintings, which are mostly inspired by her life, everyday experiences, and her love of gardening and nature. Katie talks us through the ways she captures the feeling of the moment she is responding to and the essence of her subject, her painting process, and the way she manages the different media she uses in her work, including combining acrylic and oil paints. We talk about why she often likes to underpaint using a fluoro paint and her use of colour, her layering technique, the ways she introduces details in her work, how she paints flesh, light and shadow, and the tools and mediums she uses. Katie shares her approach to sharing her work on social media, which she's very good at, diversifying within her practice, experimentation, mark making and commissions, and how she manages her days as a very busy homeschooling mother of 3 young girls. Thank you very much to Katie for joining me on Creative Connections, and thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoy this episode. Kia ora, Katie.
Hi, Mandy. How are you?
I'm good. It's really great to
Good.
meet you.
And you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And you look very smiley and happy to be here, which is great.
I'm pumped. I'm so excited. It also means that it's a break from my 3 children at dinner time. So
Yeah,
it's a win-win.
It's really good timing. I actually wondered if it would be terrible timing for you, but you've obviously got
It's
your
perfect.
partner on
Perfect.
board.
Yeah, absolutely. He's very supportive of all my creative endeavours.
That's so good.
Yeah, he's got it covered.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's a good time to get out when family life, crazy family life.
Yeah.
What was it called?
Yeah.
Witching hour or hell hour or something like that?
Yes, definitely witching hour where they're all hungry and dinner's not quite ready. So that's about this time. So it's good to escape and talk all things art.
First of all, you're living in Wellington. So I do like to ask guests what they love about where they live. So what is it about Wellington that captures you?
Cool. So born in Wellington, raised in Wellington. What do I love? Wellington on a good day. That sounds so cliche. But I do. I think I love all the hills, all the greenery, all the beautiful bushwalks, which I think that I've sort of taken note of more as I've gotten older and having children. Just you really appreciate all the beauty that Wellington has to offer you, not just in the harbour, but when you go out to the hills. I think I really love that. And of course, the city has a really sort of like a niche vibe to it, very like beautiful cafes, nice little boutique shops, yummy coffee. That's definitely a selling point for me is a good coffee.
Yeah.
And the markets probably. The harbourside markets are really lovely. We take our kids there most Sundays and just ride our bikes and eat food and drink coffee and
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? I love it. Yeah, I do miss New Zealand coffee. So you were born there, and as a child, were you sort of thinking creatively as you do now, do you think?
Yeah. I know that a lot of artists maybe don't have this response, but I have always been very, very creative. I even remember when I was a little girl, my dad brought home a pack of A4 paper for the printer, like it was printer paper. And he bought another pack for me and just gave me a pack of printer paper. And I just thought, oh my goodness, this is like the best gift ever, because it was just a world of possibilities for me. And even now, I think with like a fresh canvas or even a fresh piece of paper, I just feel really excited with the prospect of it. So I was always like sitting up at the bench while mum and dad cooked dinner and always doodling away and drawing. And throughout school, even in primary school, I think I did an after school art class. And weirdly enough, I was in the Dominion Post. I don't even know if the Dominion Post is around anymore. When I was like 8, doing a little doodle, and then here I am doing art for a career. So there we go. Yeah.
That's interesting, isn't it? How some people have really sort of creative lives as youngsters, and some people find it quite a bit later. Were your parents encouraging you to?
I think both my parents were creative in their own ways. Like Dad was probably better at drawing, and he used to help me sort of, I don't know, back when you used to do projects, you used to write your fonts out and colour them in and make them all wonderful. So he used to help me with stuff like that. But my mum was creative with sewing, and she did lovely birthday cakes for us, which was another kind of creative outlet, I suppose. I don't know if they ever thought that I would maybe be an artist as a profession. Maybe they thought that I'd turn my creativity into something else. But yeah, I don't think either way they kind of nudged me in any particular direction, which was nice. I think that they just sort of let things unfold for themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, which is good. And at high school, were you really into art, or was it a big focus for you?
Yeah. So I did art in college as well. And I also did fashion at college as well, which were my major creative outlets. So I did every lunchtime, you'd find me and my girlfriends in the art room, just working on our art. And then even after school as well, that was just my favourite place to be, with our friends, doing art, listening to music. And it's funny, we talk about it now because I'm still good friends with some of my girlfriends. And we're like, those were the best days of our life. We didn't know it. There was no pressure. We could just create as much as we wanted to. You were with your best buddies, and what more could you want, really?
Yeah. They were good times, although there was always that teenage angst thrown in, which could be problematic at times.
Yeah. I don't want to go back to that part of my life, actually.
No.
Just the art part. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So after school, where did you decide to head?
So after college, I did first year design at Massey. At the time, I thought it would be a better option in terms of maybe monetizing, having a creative outlet. I thought, okay, this is more applicable in a whole lot of different ways. I'll do design. And then I was going to major in fashion. So I did my first year, but then in all honesty, I really did not like it. And I thought, oh gosh, I don't want to major in fashion. I almost, in some ways, found it a little bit superficial. I was like, I don't want to be thinking about what people wear for the rest of my life. Not that it's not meaningful, or not that I don't care about what I wear or whatever, but I don't think I was invested in it. And I took a year off and worked, and then I did nursing. So I got a bachelor in nursing, which was a complete U-turn. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. How did you come across that career? Why did you decide to do that?
I think out of feeling like fashion was a little bit meaningless, I definitely had a season where I struggled with my mental health, and I guess wanting to have a career in something that I felt was meaningful. And I felt drawn to doing nursing. I almost felt like that was a path that opened up for me. My mum's a nurse, and I never thought that I would be a nurse. But then here I was thinking, oh gosh, this could be the way that I have something to offer towards people. Yeah, and it was a few different things. Like I'm a Christian, so there was a faith aspect, and then at the time I was reading a book which weirdly had a nurse in it, and I just felt really drawn to her character in it. So then I did nursing, and I loved it. I'm a bit of a geek, really. So anything that I kind of start to get interested in, I just go like full steam ahead, and I get totally absorbed in it. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. It's such a fantastic profession, such an important career, where you really make a difference, a little bit like teaching, I suppose. And
Yes.
that's, I know what you mean about that you're contributing to society in a really positive way, which feels good.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Oh, good on you. And I have so much admiration for nurses. Oh my God, what a job.
Yeah. I mean, I had a slightly nicer position in that I mainly went into practice nursing, which I feel like is like the creme de la creme of nursing. It's still really busy and really hard, but I don't think it's as hard as what some of my friends do. Yeah, working in the hospital. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really full on. So as you were nursing, were you making and creating?
Not really. Interestingly enough, I think for a few years, or no, maybe not a few, a couple years, during the season of having a break and then starting my nursing degree, I think I really struggled because I wasn't doing great with my mental health, that creativity didn't flow. And funnily enough, painting was the last thing that I actually wanted to do, which I look back in hindsight and think, oh, gosh, I mustn't have been feeling really good for art to not be a part of my life.
That's actually quite interesting, isn't it? Because I feel like with mental health, creating can be like the best thing you can possibly do for your mental health. But then on the other hand, sometimes you just can't get there. You can't get the right sort of headspace to create. So do you mind me
Yes.
asking what you were suffering from? Was it anxiety or?
So I had my first diagnosis of depression at the time. And it really blindsided me because I was tick boxing everything. Like I was eating well, I was exercising, I was actually oversleeping, which now I say, okay, that was actually one of the symptoms. So it sort of blindsided me, and I think maybe in part I got married really young, so I was 18 when I got married. So this was all after moving out of home. I had a whole lot of I think at the time were stressors, not necessarily bad stress, but I had a whole lot of change and potential burnout, and then I think my mental health suffered from it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny with creativity, isn't it? It's like what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Because when you don't feel great, you don't want to create, but you know that creating will actually help you feel better. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like stopping that vicious cycle, I think.
Yeah. And sometimes some people aren't feeling good mentally and can make, and it's their sort of savior, it's what saves them and helps them get through that period. So it's different for every person, isn't it? It's really interesting.
Mm.
Yeah. So how did you work through that, and how did you get to getting more creative again?
So I think I dabbled over for a few years. Like I graduated, I nursed for about 6 years, I think. And in that time, like I did a little bit of dabbling, like a painting here and there, a commission here and there for whoever wanted it. But it wasn't until my second daughter was born, I was on maternity leave at the time, and I was doing actually health coaching. I started this little side business doing health coaching. And I started making these little clay ceramic pieces and hand painting them, and then I dabbled with resin and I sealed them in resin. Um, and then they just started taking off. the more that I created, the more that I started experimenting and painting more, and it was just this real flow-on effect. And then it was around that time as well, I think, while I was on maternity leave, that I approached, there was a gallery here in Wellington called Mitchell Studios, just in Kandala. They've since closed down maybe about a year ago, which was really sad. The lady that owned it was really lovely. I just waltzed in there one day, which I know you're not supposed to do now. And I said, "Hey, I've got these ceramic pieces. Would you like to sell them?" And she was like, "Oh, send me some images or show me." And she started selling them. And then I started doing original paintings. And I said, "Oh, do you want to put these in?" She said, "Yeah." And then I think gave her 3, and within the first week they all sold. And I thought, "Oh, I'm onto something."
Wow. How amazing.
Yeah. It was, I think I've got a glass of wine toasting, glass of champagne toasting my husband after that week. And then I think at that point I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to decide what I do, because I can't nurse, I can't homeschool, and I can't be an artist. Something is going to have to give. As much as I want to do everything, I know that I can't.
Yeah.
And then I dropped the nursing.
That is amazing. And that's quite a big thing. So at this point, how old were you at this point?
Oh God, did maths. How old is she? She's almost 6. So this was 6 years ago.
Yeah. So mid 20s roughly. And so you're faced with that. You've got this career that you were still enjoying, I presume, you're nursing.
Yes.
Yeah. And you'd had you'd had one child by then, or you'd had 2 children.
2, yeah.
Yeah. And had you decided that you wanted to homeschool?
Yes, yeah. So at that point, I'd kind of they were still young. My oldest, how old? She was maybe 3, I think.
Okay.
So I think it was around that time that I started kind of investigating and just talking to different people and kind of, I guess deciding what I thought that I wanted to do with my kids as they got older. And it was around that time actually that we decided to homeschool, because had you asked me 5 years ago, I thought that that's what really weird people did. So it was all new, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really interesting. So, I mean, I guess it was the affirmation of, the sales and also the gallerist being, interested in showing your work, which is amazing. It's incredible that you hadn't really developed your practice. You were right at the beginning and
Yes.
you did so well. So that was sort of the pivotal moment, I suppose, where you just thought, actually, could I do this as my profession? Is that what you were thinking, like alongside raising your kids?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Up until that point, I was really busy doing a load of commissions with these resin ceramics, which were really fiddly to do. And I did a couple of tables and stuff. So they were really busy, and I was finding I just didn't have enough capacity, I think, doing that. And then I was still doing a bit of health coaching on the side. And, but I think, retrospectively, I think back and I think, gosh, I'm so grateful to her, to Anna, and maybe I'll tell her to have a listen to this podcast so that she knows.
Yes.
Just that she took a chance on me, and she was just so lovely, and she probably didn't know that she was the fuel that added to the fire that is who I probably am now.
Yeah.
And has kickstarted this whole journey for me.
Yeah, exactly. And is it something that you had in the back of your mind that you wanted to do one day, or was it actually something you thought could happen, or did it kind of happen accidentally?
I think throughout college, I feel like there was a real culture of you must go to university, you've got to get a degree, and put your big girl pants on and don't dream. Sort of, I don't know whether that was my particular college or my interpretation of it at the time. But I think like the child in me would have like only dreamed of being an artist as a profession. But I think along the way I kind of dulled that down and thought, oh no, like let's be realistic about what your potential is or what your options are. The chances of you being a successful artist are really minimal. So let's try all these other routes. So I'm super grateful for being here even today talking to you. Like I just feel, oh, like the child in me just dies a little bit in every opportunity that I get given. And I think this is it. This is the dream. Like I truly am just so grateful. Yeah.
Yeah, so good. It's brilliant that you're living your dream, at this age and then making it work with your family. It's so good. So
Yes.
could you talk to us, could you maybe just describe your practice, the ceramics and the painting for people who've never seen your work before?
Sure. Um, so I've kind of got a mixture of references that I use or different styles of paintings that I do. What I would sort of split them into at the moment is floral, where I'll do like a purely floral piece or a floral scene. And then I've also done a recent series of portraits of children in a botanical environment. Um, they're really colourful. They've got lots of mixed media. So I use texture paste, oil paint, acrylic paint pens, oil pastel. Um, and then as of very recently, like the last few days, I've just started doing a new series or small series of tablescape pieces, which I'm really excited about. And it's just like another new direction, I guess, or an extension of what I'm already doing with floral work.
And your ceramics are hand built objects, aren't they?
Yes. So I throw and I do slab building. Again, I would say that in terms of my pottery career, like I'm still probably quite amateur, really. I only did a ceramics workshop maybe a couple of years ago. It was an introductory one, where it was like 6 weeks for a couple of hours. And it took me years to get into it because there's a really high need for pottery workshops in Wellington and they're really hard to get into. But again, like I finally got into it and it was my first class and I came home and I bought a wheel and they're not cheap.
Yeah.
And then I think it was like something like 5 or 6 months later, I bought my own kiln and
Wow.
they're really not cheap.
Wow, go you. And
Yeah.
you were just thinking, I really want to make this part of my practice.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I just fell in love with it and got a little bit obsessive again. And then um, just practice. And also, I mean, the internet's an amazing resource. Like, watch a lot of YouTube tutorials and read up about different things. And um, yeah. And I just thought, oh, like I really love this. And then also I think hand painting, because I do hand painted ceramics as well, bringing in my floral work that I'm doing with my paintings into my ceramic work, which has kind of been a nice way to integrate things again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. And the like the moths and the bees and the other things that you've made, which I think you had at Art in the Park this year, didn't you? They're
Yes.
really unique. I mean, I feel like the lovely thing about pottery, I mean, you can learn all the skills and techniques, but you can also kind of take it to your own place as well. Let's start by talking about your paintings in more depth. Can you talk to us about what you're trying to express and what it is about flowers and gardens and children that are sort of inspiring you at the moment?
Oh, this is my favorite thing to talk about. So I'm so excited to just talk about it. Just yeah. Um, so what I really noticed, I think, transitioning from being maybe a teenager or a child myself to becoming an adult is things just get quite serious, I think. Life is actually quite hard. There's a lot of pressure in being an adult. And then even in having children, um, yeah, there's a lot of pressure to be like a great colleague, a great worker, a great mum, and you're wearing all these hats, and then you come home at the end of the day, often you're exhausted, and you go to bed, and then you kind of do it on repeat again. And I think that we've moved into a really fast pace, busy culture. And I think for me, the biggest inspiration was having my children, and namely because, particularly when they're little, they just have such a beautiful way of noticing all the things that we start to take for granted as adults. Like you go for walks and they're like, look at this little flower, mum. And like we'd look at it and think, oh gosh, that's a weed. And we wouldn't even look at it, would we? We'd just walk by it. And they notice like shapes in the clouds and how the seasons change. And I think being a parent was such a privilege because all of a sudden I got to stop with them and just take notice and go, oh yeah, like the leaves of that, the color of that leaves have changed. And oh yeah, that tree's got blossoms on it. It didn't have them like a few months ago. And so I think they have been my biggest inspiration in peeling back all the burdens and everything that we take on as adults to start living in the moment a bit more and being present, noticing, pausing. And in a way, like it's all connected into mental health as well, isn't it? Because it's been grounding for me and it's been grounding for them. And then it's also prompted me to start creating. And then I get to participate in this beautiful flow-on effect where it helps to ground other people and it helps them to notice things and to pause and find joy again and to notice colours. And so yeah, that's probably my major influence. I'd say my faith is a big influence as well. Like I believe in a creator, and so I think, oh gosh, like prior I used to think, oh, it's creating that meaningful, particularly compared to nursing, I think, where I held nursing on this pedestal of having a really meaningful role in people's lives. And then I thought, oh, painting, is that really as meaningful as that? But then I thought, oh no, like I feel like innately we have beauty in mind. The whole world is kind of like filtered through a lens of beauty in like architecture and structure and color. And I feel like it's as important to everyone's well-being as, you know, like just the physical health side of things. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that your sort of need for contributing and doing something for others is really coming through still with your work.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like I feel like I definitely have a real sense of how am I contributing meaningfully in my life, both immediately, like to my family, like my husband and my children, but on a wider level. It's really important to me. And then I've had some beautiful connections made with different collectors where they've said, oh, you know, like I've had a loved one pass away and they really loved monarch butterflies and your piece really spoke to me because it's got a monarch in it and they used to go out in the garden and I thought, oh gosh, like there it is. There's the connection and there's the meaning. And then, and those are the moments that bring me to tears as well because it just feels really special.
Yeah, and it is special. That's a really beautiful thing. It's something that artists can do for people, which is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can we just dig into your your paintings and what they actually look like. So they are, as you said, very colourful and very textural and sort of very multi-layered, and they are so beautiful to look at. They're absolutely gorgeous. But also, you're
Thank you.
really clever at your figurative work. You know, the way you paint clothes and capture the light and the shadows and the faces. And I feel like you're painting in a way that's well, you're really creating your own style. You know, there's something quite unique about the way you paint. It's
Thank
it's
you.
it's really definitely your work, you know, and watching the videos, the process videos that you often put on your Instagram page, they are so good. Those videos are awesome to watch. They're quite sort of, I mean, you're actually giving something to people, just, you know, the people looking at your videos, because it's very meditative, you know, just watching your reels, which are really well made, by the way, I think. They're really nice to watch. You know, some process videos aren't for some reason, but I really enjoyed watching your ones and just showing that layering process from the beginning. It's so
Yeah.
interesting. So listeners who are interested can go and have a look at your Instagram page for sure. But can you talk us through maybe first the theme, you know, how you come up with an idea for each painting? Let's start with that.
Cool. Um, so I would say that majority of my inspiration comes from my everyday life. And I think it's that, again, it's a really authentic process where I'm spending time outside with my kids, um, and yeah, capturing. And I always bring my phone with me because I'm constantly taking photos of them and where we are out in nature. So that's kind of where the portrait paintings began, and I have painted my girls, but a little part of me died a bit when I sold them because I thought, oh no, I'm giving a part of my soul away with this painting. Um,
Yeah.
so for my most recent series, I decided I ran a promotion where I said, send me images of your children in a natural setting. And if I select your image as a reference, in return, I'll give you a print of the original. And I got inundated with
Really.
beautiful, beautiful images of all sorts of children, from New Zealand families all over. And it was like winning the lottery because I just had these beautiful kids. And then in return, I completed the painting, and then they got something really special and meaningful out of it as well. And I was able to, ask a little bit about their kid and what their name was and the kind of things that they liked. And so that's kind of how I came across the references for the children, um, that I've done recently. For my floral ones, I use sort of like a combination of methods to come up with ideas. Sometimes I'll paint from a reference from my garden, just direct. Other times I'll do like I often use Procreate where I'll collect images and layer them on top of each other and create a composition that way. And then even in some of the images, like one of the ones that I've done recently of the little girl looking in the letterbox, that one had no daisies in it. But I thought, oh, this painting needs daisies. So that was just, I guess, intuitive. Um,
Yeah. And was
yeah.
that one from was that one of the photos that somebody had given you?
Yes. Yeah.
I love that painting.
I know, so do I. Yeah, I do really love it. And actually at Art in the Park most recently, um, it was so lovely. I was tucked away in this little corner, and people would come into the art show and they'd come around the corner and their whole face just like lit up. And they were like, oh, wow. Oh, well, look at her little face. And they
Yeah.
just were delighted by her and her little expression looking into the letterbox. Um, and I just think I'll carry that moment with me forever, just seeing their faces light up with her little face. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And it's such a gorgeous I mean, the person who took the photo just captured that really interesting expression. It's one of those expressions that, we all do sometimes if we're concentrating or, a funny sort of expression, not like a sort of perfect smiling face. I just love it.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's very engaging. And I love that idea of actually asking your audience to send something in because I guess it could potentially take you down another road or sort of expose you to new ideas that you might not have come up with yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely something that I'm keen to do again. Um, and saying that, I don't know if I even have to advertise again because I still have some great reference images that I would go back to the family and the owner of the image and say, do you mind if I use it and do the whole thing again? But it is a really lovely way to have great references and also to have permission to use the image as well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was just an ingenious idea, really.
Ingenious.
If
Amazing
I can pull
stroke
my
of
own
genius.
trumpet.
Oh, I love that. And I like the way that you sort of take that as a starting point and then, add what you feel it needs and sort of really
Yeah,
make it your own. So how
yeah.
does research play a part in this part of the process of gathering, botanicals and that kind of thing?
Again, I feel like so much of my research is framed by my real life experience. Um, I'm a big gardening geek as well. So I'm always, well, mainly from spring right through till the end of autumn, I'm out there in the garden and I'm always taking photographs and noticing so much about the leaves and the light and the colors. And I follow a lot of flower farmers, and a lot of my friends grow flowers. So constantly looking at images of flowers and um, yeah, I guess deciding which ones that I like and which ones I'm going to plan on growing and which ones I'd like to paint. Um, Dahlias is like a really, really common reoccurring flower in my paintings. I'm just obsessed with them, just how perfect they are, the shape of them, all the different colors that they come in. And like I feel like dahlias is the adult version of Pokemon cards because you can trade them and collect them, and they've got value that, and they kind of, I don't know if you're a flower grower, but they get bigger and then you divide them, and then
Ah,
it's really
amazing.
fun.
Yeah,
Um,
I love my garden too, but I'm not flowers. It's more sort of subtropical where we are.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, yeah, yeah,
But that sounds beautiful. And there's so many people who just are so captured by flowers or just that sort of amazing natural beauty. And they are so
yes,
incredible, aren't they? Yeah. But you do
yes.
paint them beautifully. Well, how would you describe your style exactly?
Probably expressionist, maybe. Um, I'm definitely not into. I'm into creating the essence of a flower, but without being hyper realistic about it.
Yeah.
Um, and in particular, I think like I use acrylic paint pens and I often use like a fine paintbrush as well, right at the end to do details. And I do lots of swirly bits and twirls, and that's very intuitive and flow. And again, I feel like that's gives like character to the flowers and movement and expression with them.
It's not realistic, but it is realistically capturing a landscape, even if it's
Yeah,
an imagined landscape. But it has a sort of expressionist vibe, I think. I mean,
yeah,
the interesting thing about your work, and that's why your process reels are so good, because you're really seeing how you're forming all of these, elements of the painting. And I feel like fundamentally it's all about mark making.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then you bring it
yeah,
all together. And so that I guess is the sort of expressionist side of things.
yeah,
Maybe, the marks and how they all sort of build and then become things. But
yes,
it's even that your style of painting, the way you approach the painting is it feels very fluid.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I this sound might sound terrible, but I almost feel like I'm a little bit lazy in how I approach art. I I'm like, how can I capture the essence of this with very intentional and direct mark making to give it its shape and character and color without spending a whole lot of time blending and all these nitty gritty final details. Um, and this is probably why I say that I feel like I'm almost a bit lazy, but I'm not interested in, I guess, capturing the realism. I want to capture the feeling that my paintings create.
Yeah.
And I think that over time, and the more that I'm doing it, the more confident I get and the quicker I get at it because I understand how all these layers and how all these marks together will come together at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can imagine it's just such a beautiful way to work. It's not like you're drawing in pencil all the shapes and then coloring them in kind of thing. It
Yeah.
feels very organic the way that you work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that. And you just kind of feel the joy just from watching you working, it's just like, oh, it just feels so sort of open and free and just you're just responding to what you're putting down and then it just kind of builds and nothing's been drawn, it's just sort of happens, but you might have your reference photo there. But yeah, I really love your process. So can you talk us through the process right from the beginning when you prepare your canvas?
Yeah. Yeah. So right from the beginning, I use a really nice, like artist grade gesso. Um, I feel like there's a couple of reasons why I do that. It adds like a nice tooth to the canvas, and right from the beginning gives a really subtle layer of texture. Um, but also I've found in the past different types of canvases will almost repel my acrylic paint pens. Whereas this particular gesso just kind of like absorbs them really nicely. I don't know what it is about specifically the acrylic paint pens, but it's just them that it seems to kind of react negatively sometimes depending on the canvas.
And you
Um,
don't sand, do you? You like to keep the marks, is that right with your
yeah,
gesso?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So no, so the more texture right from the outset, the better, in my opinion. um, and then as of recently, my most recent series, I've then gone in with a fluoro um, back painting. That in of itself has been really challenging. Um, I've started to get used to it now, but you can imagine, I guess it's paint or color theory, sorry. When you're laying down typical colors next to a fluoro, everything starts to look muddy. And so I was finding when I was doing the fluoro underpainting that it was quite stressful. And I definitely had a crisis pretty much every painting that I did because I thought, gosh, these colors look awful. But it wasn't until maybe I'd gotten 90% of the overall painting covered in that the fluoro kind of like faded into the background. And then the true colors started to emerge of the painting. Um, the reason why I do fluoro underpainting is just because I feel like it adds another point of interest, and just kind of like lifts everything up and makes it feel a bit brighter and a bit happier. Um, so I start with the fluoro underpainting, and then from there I normally do move in with acrylic washes, mainly a phthalo green blue shade. And then again, this is trial and error, but I found that if I use is it the green shade or the yellow, the opposite of the blue one, I think it's yellow shade, that overtones of fluoro pink creates like a muddy browny color. Whereas if I use the phthalo green blue shade over the pink, you get all these like beautiful turquoisey greens and purples, and just this beautiful like array of colors. So I'm pretty consistent with most paintings that I'll start with that
And
wash. Yeah.
does the wash go over the whole canvas?
So no, I always leave what I say is like peekaboo highlight bits. So so I sort of paint using a really wide brush. I'll sort of go over the top with my wash. I'll let bits of the acrylic wash drip down. And then often in my paintings, those drips that sort of like solidify and become like a harder line end up being stems in my paintings as well. And then from that point, I will add in some blue washes and some lighter greens, and then that kind of creates my dark, my mid, and my light tones. So kind of sets the stage for going in and for more detail.
And when you do that, are you thinking about perspective and sort of foreground, background kind of feels, or is it just purely quite sort of abstract at that point?
No, so definitely thinking, the background, foreground. So I'll normally have my reference on my laptop in front of me and I'll go, okay, this is going to be the sky and this is roughly where the horizon line starts. And so you'll find me with my acrylic paint sort of drawing in the horizon line as I go with the tube. And then as the foreground comes towards you, that's when I'll be going in with a lighter shade and dripping that all in. So then once I've got my my wash in, that's when I'll start to do the background or the foliage. Normally there's always foliage. So again, I'll be doing the darker tones, the mid-tones, the highlights, and I'll be doing my flowers, start painting them in. And then if it's a portrait that I'm doing, I switch from acrylic paints to oils. I prefer using oils for portraits because you have a longer working time, but also because my painting process is really stop-start because I've got young kids and you never know when you're going to be interrupted. I can just put my whole palette into the freezer and then pick up where I left off. So that's like amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. I didn't know you could do that with oil paints.
I know. Genius, right?
Yeah.
Life hack right there.
Do you put Glad wrap over it and then put it in the freezer?
No, I just chuck the whole plate in the freezer. When I take it out the next day or a couple of days later, sometimes it will have like a little bit of condensation on it, but not a lot. It was actually one of my other artist friends that taught me that hack, and it's just been such a game changer. It's so easy.
That's great, and it's good that you're not wasting paint.
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. It's a great idea. Yeah. So you're into the flowers, and then how do you build up that sort of feeling of depth and space in your work?
So it's sort of interesting. I'd almost say that the real depth comes in the foliage and in the stems. I go through, like, say, if I've got a mid-tone green, I'll go through in a darker paint again. And it's like that mark making again where I'll block in areas. And then that's like, looks like things are further away. And then all of a sudden these stems are starting to pop out towards you just because of these, like horizontal, not horizontal, because of these vertical mark makings that I've done.
Yeah.
And then again, I'll go in with some lighter tones, and then it looks like some more stems have come out towards you in the foreground. With the flowers, it almost makes more sense because I'll start out with my smaller flowers in the background. They'll gradually get a bit bigger as they come towards you, and then your bigger ones will be in the forefront. And then I'll go over the top again and do more flowers over the top so that you've got that progression.
Yeah, it's quite amazing the way you do that. And then when you're putting a person in amongst all of that, do you sketch the person and then fill it with paint?
So I actually project if I'm doing a portrait. When I say a portrait, a large scale portrait, like I've been doing some illustrations lately and I've just been hand illustrating them. And the reason why I project is not because I don't have capacity to draw, because I can, and I have been. I'm fine with drawing. I'm good at drawing. Um, it's probably it's more so that I can spend more time in the things that I find meaningful, like the painterly parts. Um, but I think as well with portraits, it's really important to really capture the essence of who that person is. And I've sort of figured out that in my mind, the easiest way and the best way to capture the essence of somebody is to capture their shadows and their highlights. And I can do that through projecting it. So it kind of just sets the stage for me to go, yeah, this is accurate. And then I can spend my time filling in the details through paint.
So you just draw the line from the projector, draw in. What do you actually draw in?
So what I do is I'll often edit the image on my iPad. I feel like some artists will die a little bit hearing this, because I feel like it's potentially a little bit controversial to
No, not
project
at all.
images.
I don't
No,
think so. No, I think
no.
it's seen as a tool. It's just a tool.
Yes, well, that's how I see it. So,
Yeah,
and it's been a
totally.
great tool.
Yeah.
So I'll edit the images on my iPad and I'll make it really high contrast. And then so it will sort of block out the darkest shadows and then the highlights. And then I'll go into a dark room and project the image onto my canvas. And one of my favorite things to do as of recent, maybe like the last few months, is I'll do my drawing in a fluoro yellow. Um, and then when I go in to paint over the top, I actually leave a whole lot of the original mark making or the sketch, because I just think, oh, that's another point of interest and just something
Yeah,
that's kind of cool about how the whole process ends up.
totally. And what do
Yeah.
you use? What sort of pen with that for that fluoro outline?
So I've got them all here in front of me. So I use the Voltol one for all. Yeah,
Yeah.
these are my favorite ones. I just feel like they've got um, just got really great pigment to them. Yeah. So I've got a whole array of different colors that I use.
Drawing the fluoro in there, I guess, just kind of works nicely with that sort of initial underpainting of fluoro as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
And then even in like I did a sunflower for art in the park. And with that one I did the fluoro pink first, and then I freehanded in the fluoro yellow the sunflower, and then I went over the top with my wash. And you could see, because the acrylic wash isn't opaque, you could see the fluoro yellow underneath it. And it just gave this beautiful, like, illustrative kind of style to the leaf. So I've kind of carried that forward as well with some of my pieces. Some of the stuff that I do is very intentional, and some of it, well, actually, a lot of, I think, over time, I've stumbled across these things that I think, oh gosh, that's beautiful. I'm going to continue doing that.
Yeah.
Um, so that's
Yeah.
one of my favorite things to do too. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And you can see that in your work. You do use palette knife, and I've seen you using a roller, a brayer, and other tools for applying the paint. And it's almost like it becomes more textural as you sort of start to get towards the end of the painting. So
Yeah.
can you talk to us about how you use your tools?
Generally speaking, most of it's done paint. I will use a roller and do kind of like negative imaging, sometimes with some of my floral pieces.
What do you mean by that?
So like I'll cut out like a piece of card and I'll place that on the image on my canvas, and then I'll roll over the top of it to create harsh lines.
Okay.
And I've sort of sometimes created flowers using the reverse of the rolling.
That's a good
I
idea.
haven't done a lot of that, but some of my pieces I've done that with. Recently I used I've forgotten, it's called a latex, I don't know what's the other thing called. Oh yeah, it's in front of me too. A masking fluid, latex
Okay.
masking fluid.
Yeah.
That was super fun and definitely want to do that more. So what you do is you sort of I did this with the stems. So you drip your masking fluid. I did a layer of acrylic wash. I did some more masking fluid and more washes, and I built up all these layers. And then at the end, you rub it all off. And then I had all these stems done in sort of reverse contrast.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's
it was
amazing.
really fun.
So it
It
leaves
was,
it leaves the shape that you've placed the fluid onto,
yeah,
and then you wipe that away. And oh, I love that idea. I've never heard
yeah,
of that.
it was so much fun. It was kind of messed with your head a little bit because you had to go, no, you when you're painting over it all, you think, what am I doing? Because you just continue to paint over the top of it, and you can't kind of see what the end result's going to look like until you remove all the masking fluid at the end. Um, yeah, so I dabbled with that, and that was really fun.
Sounds
um,
fun.
it was. And then, yeah, so most of my stuff I just paint with a paintbrush. And then towards the end, which is when I sort of say this is like the icing on the cake, no pun intended, I use a texture paste and a palette knife. And I've kind of found that over time, like I used to do full flowers done in texture paste, but now I kind of just like accentuating highlights on flowers and doing leaves. Um, and I just feel like they give, yeah, like an add more character, more dimension to the piece. Sometimes I'll use like the edge of a palette knife to scrape in like a little twirl in one of the leaves, or and I also use the palette knife to sometimes scratch into acrylic paint to kind of, again, it's like mark making these little details in the foliage and the stems where, again, it's like you can see maybe the fluoro pink or a different color behind the green, and it's scratched into to have these like little peekaboo moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I use acrylic paint pens, which I've mentioned before. Just love the flow of using paint pens because there's really no room for mistake when you do it. You can't have like an awkward looking line. It's got to look right, and you've got to do it well, or else you're going to have to paint over a whole lot of your painting
And how
if you
I
make a
love
mistake.
I love the sort of squiggles and spirals and that kind of thing, which again is just really responding to your composition that you're creating. It's feels very organic as well.
Yeah.
But how do you use the pen in other ways for outlining or adding details to the flowers at all?
I do add some details into flowers. I outline. I wouldn't always say it's outlining specifically the flower petals because I kind of go up and beyond and over and under the petals to create movement.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I suppose it is sort of outlining the petals and things. Yeah.
at times.
And then I use it for like stems and twirls and swirls and like the clouds and
Mm. And then you bring
yeah.
in the oil pastel and just watching again the process videos, it's just so mesmerizing the way you just kind of just come in and just do little beautiful additions to what you've already made, which just makes the painting like
Yeah.
it's really beautiful.
Thank you. It's like the icing on the cake. Like I just um I've got maybe like 5 or 6 oil pastels that I've used in the past, like nice ones that have been in my previous paintings, but then I bought a new set maybe over the last couple of months, and I've been using oil pastel more. And I just love the feeling of putting oil pastel over the top and just the vibrancy of it. And then I just, yeah, like you said, I feel like it just like lifts everything up again and just adds a like a new dimension.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to using more oil pastel, I think, in my pieces to come. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's those different, the mark making and the different media that you're using is part of what's creating your really unique style, the way you
Yeah.
put it all together. Yeah. And do you think of yourself as a painter or a mixed media artist?
Oh,
Bit of both, maybe.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of both. I wouldn't say like, like, because I don't use like newspaper. Like, there's all sorts of things that you could use, I think, when you delve into mixed media. And I think that the essence of what I use tends to fall into acrylic or oil. But generally speaking, like at shows and stuff, I will put mixed media on the painting because it's really tricky to outline all the different actual acrylic and oil things that I use.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, somewhere in the bit in between, right?
yeah,
Art must be on the spectrum too.
yeah, exactly. We'll keep it fluid. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. It's so interesting to hear you really unpack that process. And how do you approach the actual recording of your process of paintings? How do you do that so well for Instagram?
Oh, I sort of stop start, to be honest. Well, sometimes I'm very consistent and I think I'm going to do a reel of this and I need to make sure that I'm doing a time lapse or I'm taking videos and then sometimes I'm so invested in the painting that I'll start it and then all of a sudden it's finished and I think, oh gosh, I've forgotten to record what's happened. Um, I think whenever I'm working now, I've always got my phone handy and for people that follow me on social media, I will often share updates and show what I'm doing um and that kind of sets the scene, I think, for having a good array of images and videos that I can use when I say come to create a reel. Um, because I found that on social media, people, like you said, people really enjoy to see the process and how you're creating things and where it starts to where it finishes. And like even for myself, I'm obsessed with seeing how artists create their pieces because I think like I've seen the end result. I'm like, but how did you get there? Like it's that inquisitive mind. Um, and I know that that's probably informed my work so much that I think, oh, like other people might find this really useful or inspiring or give them ideas for their creative processes too. Yeah.
Yeah, which is nice. And that's that giving back again, contributing to other people. I think an art practice can be so great in so many ways like that. It's quite a holistic thing if you think of, what you're actually giving to others in different ways. Yeah, I really love that.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
maybe you need to do the masking, what's that called? The masking medium.
Masking fluid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I will. I've kind of
Yes.
actually, it's kind of prompting me again to think about how I can use it. Because
Yeah.
even in of itself, I find um, when you come across new mediums, well, for me anyway, I think, oh, what's that? That kind of looks like fun. And then that's almost like a way of that feedback inspiration as well, where you think, oh, how could I use that? And oh, that could be that. And this is my brain all the time. Like my husband's like, well, should we watch something? I'm like, yeah, sure. But he's watching something, whereas my brain's looking at the TV and thinking about all these possibilities in my head about what I'm going to do creatively the next day.
Yeah, I bet, which is
Yeah.
great. That's a good thing. Yeah, and I like the idea of Instagram being a bit of an educational tool and sort of inspiration and as well as just showing your work and sharing what you're doing. It
Yeah.
can have quite an impact on people, which is nice. And I love the
Yes.
way that you have worked on little illustrative studies almost and created sort of much smaller works of the places that you are often with your kids. And I think they're really beautiful as well. They feel just slightly different. I suppose they're sort of tighter and smaller and not as sort
Hmm.
of bold, but they're really beautiful. How do you think about scale and the different ways of working in relation to size?
Those illustrative, I did 4 um recently, and funnily enough, it was like I told myself I was having a break from painting because I just finished my series for Art in the Park, and I was like, I'm not doing any painting. And then I got these new pastels, and I was like, well, I've got to use them. And then I started taking photos, and I just I can't help myself. um, so the smaller scale was more that they were just for me to begin with. just studies and experimenting with acrylic and pastel. Um, and then I thought, oh, I might sell them because I got a few messages and being like, you're going to sell this one and you're going to sell this one. And I was like, oh, well, I will sell them then. That's fine. But they were really great and almost, again, like potentially pivotal in the direction that I'm going to move into now. And I feel like it's essential as an artist and often overlooked to have these dabbles and experimentation. Where I was playing with the pastels and some of the pieces didn't make up onto my Instagram because I thought, oh gosh, that looks awful. In my opinion, I don't know if other people thought it looked awful, but I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to use oil pastel like this because that's not how I work. I'm going to try it like this. And what I found with those illustrative pieces was that I really stretched my understanding of colour, because the original image there was one of like the lambs in the field at Battle Hill, that had no purple and pink in the original reference image. But I thought, oh, how can I use colour? And then how can I contrast that? And then how can I go in again with pastels with a completely new colour to complement the colours? So all of those series were, I think, really great for my understanding of complementary colours and things that worked well together. And also how to be bold with using like an orange to highlight over your grass, for example. And also how you can capture, I think, the essence of something with tone and not necessarily with colour. Like you can use completely whack colours and still capture the essence of something.
Yeah.
So going forward, I'm like, right, I'm going to continue to carry this practice forward with being bold in the way that I use colour.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And do you find that having that or allowing yourself that experimental, sort of more playful time sort of gets you motivated for going back to your paintings?
Yes, yeah. It's a funny one really, because I think I'm a bit of a I don't know, a perfectionist or like an overachiever mindset, where I often find that like I need to be productive and there needs to be a goal in mind when I'm doing something. And I'm constantly retraining my brain to be like, actually, there doesn't have to be a goal. I can just do this. I can be present. I can have fun. It doesn't have to be a beautiful end product. So I'm really resistant to dabble, but I know that it's essential and I know that I need to create space for it. And every time I have created space for it, it's completely shifted the way that I've moved forward in practice. Even with the texture paste, like I remember when I first started texture paste, there was a night of just dabbling with it. Never used it before in my life, never used a palette knife. And I thought, oh, this is quite fun. This looks quite cool. And then from there, all of a sudden, it's everywhere. It's all over my work, and it's almost become like a signature style of or a signature part of my work, I should say. Yeah,
yeah, definitely. Just adding that texture. Yeah, it's so interesting. I feel like you do approach color in a really unique way, like I said earlier. I mean, the girl in the purple dress who's, in the garden. Um, I think there's only one girl. There might be two girls in that one. But that purple dress and just watching actually how you created it, and it's got, capturing the folds of the dress, but with really interesting tones and then interesting sort of contrasting colors almost. But then when you look at it from afar, it just looks like the dress. But when you look into it, there's some really amazing marks and different uses of color that are so effective and
thank
quite,
you.
they're almost kind of abstract when you come in closer. I guess that's the sort of expressionist idea in a way that's
Yes,
coming through. Yeah.
yeah,
Is it
yeah,
expressionist or impressionist? Maybe
yes. It's a mixture of both, I think.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And also the way that you approach skin, I find quite interesting. Can you talk us through that process?
Um, I think whenever I come to a portrait, again, it's almost like the same as flowers. Like I'm interested in blocking out the forms and the shapes and the essence of the portrait without getting into this nitty-gritty blending fine detail. Um, and I really love, and I guess I'm inspired from an array of different artists over time, like you said, where you, from a distance, you go, oh, wow, like that looks really realistic, or how have they done that? And then you go up and it's a series of mark making. And I think when I was younger, I used to think, like, I used to hold hyper-realism up here above all other artwork. But then as I've gotten older and done art in a professional capacity, and the more that I've grown, there's a lot of skill, I think, in placing down only a few brushstrokes in the correct place and in the correct tones to capture the person. And I think that I really undervalued that in the past. So again, it's just like I often will use a mid-size paintbrush. I won't let myself use a smaller paintbrush because I think that if I start using a smaller paintbrush, I'd be tempted to fill in all the details. So I'm intentional about using a bigger paintbrush than what maybe somebody else might use. Yeah.
Yeah. And I really love the way you can really see the different brushes that you use with your brush strokes or your marks. Some of them are quite square and some are way more sort of pointed, and sometimes you do get quite abstract with your sort of rectangular brush strokes sort of in amongst everything.
So normally with portraits, I do them over a series of 3 to 4 sessions. So I'll start with some really like rudimentary mark making, and then I'll add in some more tones. And then once I get to like the third session, that's when I'm probably doing like the contrasting highlights and different colours and glazes, like some more peachy colours, and adding in the blush and the cheeks and things. And then right at the end, this is when I'll use a really fine brush. But it's not like your typical details like a eyelash. It will be things like an outline, like we were talking about with the flowers. Like it'll be an outline of the gesture of the hand, or like the curve of her face, or it will be a completely imaginary line that I've made up. But that I've added to add interest and movement to the character.
I can just see, over the next sort of 40 years of development. I mean, imagine where you can take these ideas, which are already so incredible, the way you're applying these techniques to your work. Yeah. And I mean, you must feel like already your work's evolved a bit. Do you feel like that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like I was just saying to my husband today, like I look back at my earlier work and then I look to the direction that I'm moving in now, and I think it's something that I'm really like happy with within myself, as I can see change and progress within my own work, and that's all that matters. It's not about comparing to other people. If I feel like I'm growing, then that's what's important. And I think, like initially I started out with just painting flowers, and what I would now say a little bit clumsily, or not without the intention that I think that I've got now. And I just feel like my practice over time is becoming more and more refined and more intentional about how I'm doing it, and almost bold in that like some of my strokes are potentially even messier than what they used to be, but they're very intentional and and I know why they're there, and I know what they're about now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Oh, it's so lovely to hear about your process, Katie. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's really interesting and sort of inspiring. Do you ever find through your process that you sort of struggle with things, or do you get to points ever that you are really struggling with painting? And if so,
Yeah.
how do you manage that?
Um, I would say almost, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I'd say probably at least with 80% of my paintings, have a crisis point, or it's what I would call the ugly phase of a painting. Um, and what that is for me is I've got this idea in my head of how something is going to look. And then once I've started laying down the real rudimentary colours and blocking in things, it's essential as part of the process, but everything looks really clumsy at that point. And then this is the point where I go, oh gosh, like, is this going to work out? Did I have high hopes for this? And do I not actually have the ability to execute this to the standard that I had in mind? Um, and although it will still often happen, I've gotten a lot better at going, do you know what? You've done this almost every painting, Katie, and you have arrived at the end result. You will get there in the end. Just keep going. Um, and there might have been maybe like one painting or two max over the last however many years that I've gone, absolutely not. Actually, it's just not going where I want it to go. But so on the whole, I've learned to really trust my process. Um, but also this might be going on a tangent. I don't know. I've also learned, I think as I'm getting older as well, hormonally, that I'm more inclined in different parts of the month to overthink. And so I've kind of learned actually maybe if I'm that way inclined, don't start a new painting and lay down these real basic colours if I'm more inclined to overthink it.
That is so
So kind of
interesting.
yeah, so kind of like listening to my body and how I'm feeling a little bit more actually really pays off for my
Mm.
well-being.
I love that. We have never touched on hormones in this podcast, but I think that is so true. And just
Yeah.
giving yourself a little bit of grace sometimes, or sort of acknowledging and recognizing that feeling and that overthinking and having a plan for how to manage that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I'm getting a lot better at it now, and even tracking and even if it's not starting a painting, if I'm overthinking a painting mid or even at the end of the painting, just to have a little bit more wisdom to go, do you know what? I'm just going to turn this around for a couple of days. I'm going to revisit it in a few days' time with fresh eyes, potentially fresh hormones, um, and look at it again.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
good. I love that. It's good advice, actually. Make everyone think. Well, the woman anyway.
Yeah.
And I'd like to just talk a little bit about commissions. So I do find it interesting, and I think we've talked about it before on the podcast that, when you're making portraits, a bit like what you said about painting your own children, like are people able to connect even though it's a portrait of someone maybe they don't know or, an imagined person? Are they able to connect? I mean, what have you noticed with the Art in the Park and the Wellington Art Show, which you've done? What have you noticed about
Yes.
the way people connect um, with portraits that aren't connected to them? And then we can go on to talk about people commissioning you.
Yeah, sure. Um, It was interesting with Art in the Park because that was a little bit of a question mark for me doing a portrait series, whether they would be as, I guess, sought after or whether they would sell as well as my floral pieces because they are specific individuals. Um, and this is another thing that I just really loved and I kind of didn't anticipate. And I guess this is the joy of having a receiving end from people or from collectors. Um, the type of comments that I got were, oh, she looks a lot like my daughter, or she looks so much like my grandbaby, or or they were like, oh, she reminds me of me when I was a little girl, and oh, I remember that letterbox, and or I remember I had something like that, or and I think it it wasn't necessarily about the way that the child looked, but it was almost the essence of childhood, and having that childlike wonder and childlike nature that a lot of people could relate to, whether it was like their own children or their grandchildren, or whether it was themselves. So that was really, really beautiful. The pieces that sold, like there was one painting that the couple gave me the reference image, and then it wasn't until after the fact that they must have sat on it for a while and bought it because it was their children. But the rest of them were sold to completely anonymous collectors that had related to the child in it.
And I also feel like there's a sort of an element of narrative as well. It's not just the actual person, it's the story that you're capturing, or that you're sort of expressing, or people are connecting their own stories to the sort of bigger story, if you know what I mean. So I guess it's not always people sort of zooming in on the actual person. It's the concept, or the idea that it's expressing, which is, your works are probably more narrative than you realize.
Yes, like it's almost like, and it's something that I've not really thought too much of, but it's like I've kind of always thought about art initially as what I used to think was, like I've got the start and the finish of my painting, and then my painting's complete. But actually, it's almost like it's like you said, like it's like a story, and I'm writing the beginning and the middle, and then that's where I stop. And then when I connect with collectors, they're like, and then this is how it finishes. It's so special to be a part of that moment, and hearing the stories of the collectors, and being able to and I think that's also what's special about doing shows, is because you get to have that final interaction with, well, not even a final interaction, because the interactions will be ongoing once it's up in their home, and they continue to create meaning and stories around that piece. So I feel like it's really special to be a part of that ongoing story that art creates.
Yeah, and the commissions, do you find that people see your work and then think, oh my God, I want you to paint my people, or, my children? How do the commissions work, and how do you manage them?
Yeah. So I've done a lot of floral pieces, and people get in touch, and they've got like particular flowers that represent a loved one, or family member that's passed away, or it's just been like pure flowers that they like. I've done a couple of commissions of portraits of kids, again in a natural setting, that they've got great, like a beautiful image that they really love and treasure, and then I've been able to paint that. I do really love commissions, but I do enjoy the balance of both commissions and having the freedom to explore my own work. There's a little bit more pressure, I think, when it comes to commissions, particularly with portraits, because obviously that you have to really capture the essence of that child and be really accurate about it. So I always just say, like, for anyone that's wanting a portrait commissioned piece, it has to be a good quality reference image, and preferably multiple images, so that I can get a real understanding of what the child looks like. So normally what happens is somebody will send me an email that's interested about a commission, and they'll say, I really love this, like, do you think you'd be able to do it? And I've got like a T's and C's, or a policy kind of, or like a guideline that I've set out, where it pretty much just says, like, can you lay out like your likes and dislikes, your time of day, what kind of flowers you like, any specific dislikes that you really don't want included. But then I've also got a clause in there, I guess, that it also says, you've come to me that you've got good faith in my ability as an artist and my particular style and the way that I express things. So we're kind of going into this agreement on that basis. And so that's kind of all outlined in my policy procedures or whatever that I send through. In terms of progress, this might be quite different to other people. I don't like to do updates until I'm well and truly heading towards the end. The reason being is my process is quite, like you mentioned, it's quite abstract and it's all over the show, and you kind of can't really see where things are going until the last 20%.
Yeah.
And it's funny, and I will tell my collectors or clients that I will hide my stories from them on Instagram so that they cannot see the process. Because if they see the process halfway through and they don't know where it's going, they'll go, oh my gosh, it's nothing like what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's the last sort of like once I've laid down all the paint and before I go in with the texture paste and the final details, that's when I'll say, hey, this is how it's looking. How are you feeling? Have I captured the essence of the kid, your child? Is there anything like that you want change, or like, are you happy? And then I'll go in with the texture paste, because once I've done the texture paste, there's not like much that I can change unless it's in an area that I don't have paste on it, because that's just so like you can't paint over it, you can't correct it. Yeah.
So you've talked about Art in the Park, which was obviously a really, positive experience, and the Wellington Art Show. Are you looking now towards showing your work in galleries or being represented by galleries?
I'm looking to be in more galleries throughout New Zealand. And saying that, for the immediate foreseeable future over the next year, we're actually shortly settling on some land and going to be building our forever home. So I am very, very aware that that is going to push us, or push me, in a lot of ways, that art will be probably minimized even a little bit, even further, for the next maybe year. Purely because my husband is the builder, and that makes me chief project coordinator, designer, all of the above. Yeah, which is super exciting. Like, I'm so excited to do it, and it's right up my alley, designing everything and doing everything. So I'm aware and trying to hold myself back from agreeing to doing a whole lot of stuff, because I don't want to put too much pressure on myself.
That makes sense.
But on the other side of that coming out, like my youngest one will be getting a little bit older over the next couple of years, and I feel like over the last couple of years I've taken even more of a step back just because she's been so little. But once she's a little bit older, she's my youngest, so she'll be a bit more independent, and then I can step back into doing more work and be at a fuller capacity. So I think after this next year, once we finish our build, I'd like to have, definitely a more presence in galleries, not just doing art shows. The reason why I've been a little bit hesitant in even approaching galleries is because of that, again, capacity that I've had. Like, I've been very lucky that I've pretty much sold out at my art shows, and I genuinely just haven't had capacity to keep up with everything. So I'm looking forward to having more time to do more.
And you've got plenty of time for that. You're just in a certain phase which will pass. But speaking of your daily routine, I mean, I actually don't know how you do it. You're homeschooling 3 girls. Your youngest is 19 months and your oldest was she 6?
7. Yeah, almost 7. Yeah.
So, I mean, just homeschooling in itself, I think, I admire people who can do that. And then, figuring out your art practice around it and then all the other things that you do. So how do you actually manage your day so that you can get some art making done?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's the one that I get asked a lot by friends and family. Um, so I think what I've learned is to be really adaptable. I think becoming a mum, you learn to be adaptable, and like your children are constantly growing and changing, and you're having to adjust the way that you do things. So I've kind of learned um, to work my art around whichever season they're in life. Like for example, when my youngest was a newborn, it was brilliant because I knew, okay, she's just going to nap on me and I'll have plenty of time to smash out art. And at that point, my oldest two were quite independent. So if they're happily playing, I'll get an hour in easy. Just by, being in the same room as them and they're independent. And, if they're having a fight or whatever, that might stop me mid painting or, where I also so when I paint, like I've been using my daughter's nap times. So she'll give me an hour and a half nap time. We've normally like finished all our, what I would say is our formal work with my oldest two. Um, and then they'll have like free playtime while I'm doing art. And then we'll say go out for the afternoon and we'll be hanging out with friends or swimming lessons or gymnastics or one of the many million things that they do. They also they go to nature school for a full day, so that in the past has given me a full day to smash out work, which has been incredible. And then I guess I do stuff like in the weekends as well when my husband is around. We've just set like a new rhythm recently where I'm like, right, I'm going to get up on a Wednesday morning from 6 and work till 10, and my husband will do drop off. And so I think it's just about being like, this is what I want to do. These are the windows of time that I've got to do it. And there's no hesitation for me. Like I'm straight in. I think when you're intentional about wanting to do something, you set aside the time and you make it happen, because I think that people wouldn't believe the time that they've got up their sleeve by the time they've checked their social media and I don't know, gone some rabbit hole algorithm, or you can find little bits of time, and they do amount to quite a significant amount of time, even if it's fragmented.
Yeah.
For painting,
It's a mindset, I suppose. I mean, some people might find it hard to kind of get into that right headspace when you've had a sort of manic day with the kids, but I think it is a bit of a mindset, like, well, this is how I have to do it for the moment.
yeah,
Even if it
yeah.
might not be your ideal scenario. Yeah. And do you have a few works on the go so you can kind of decide on what you feel like working on, or how does that work?
No, I know that some artists are like that, but I am like a start to finish kind of gal. I've got a painting that I want to do and it's in my mind, and I am like a dog with a bone. I need to complete this piece. It's funny when you talk about mindset, this has probably been one of the biggest learning curves for me, is having boundaries with my art and with my children, and having a mindset of, right, this is my time that I'm with my children, and even mentally being present with them, because sometimes I think in the past I get myself all flustered and in a state, and it's because the children are fighting or something's not quite going to plan, and it's not even what's happening with them, but it's because I'm busy thinking about what I'm doing with my work. And I know that makes for a snappy and short mum, and so I've gotten a lot better over time to be like, this is the time that I have allocated in my day to think about my work and to do my work, and if it is not in that window, then I am not going to indulge myself, because I don't want to be a snappy mum, and I don't want to feel divided when I'm with my children. So yeah. And it's a lesson that I still come back to sometimes, like when I got back from art in the park, funnily enough. I thought, great, I'm going to do all this work and I'm going to spend all the time doing this. And then I kind of let the boundaries slip a little bit. And then I got a bit grumpy and a bit snappy. And then I thought, oh, do you know what? This is what has happened. And I need to pull everything back into its usual alignment, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And kids are so good at picking up the energies with their mums, if you're feeling a certain way and then they sort of react to that, even sort of subconsciously, and then you react to that and it becomes a
Yes.
thing. I used to
Yeah.
find that with teaching, if I was in the wrong frame of mind and a bit sort of impatient or whatever, the kids in my class would just start getting really weird and sort of off, off center almost. And then when I
Yeah.
kind of brought it back in, it's like, actually, I'm just going to be super positive and loving. And then they respond like, okay, she's back. And then everything gets better. It's like
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
cycle.
Absolutely. Like it's so important for them, but also my headspace as well, to just take off the pressure. You don't have to do everything at this moment in time. And I think even, I guess like making sure that I've allocated that time for myself takes the pressure off mentally as well, so that I can go, okay, I don't actually have to think about this right now. I definitely used to have a mindset of like, well, I'm more inclined to do everything all at once, all the time, and just learning to park things and to come back to things. And even I think it's been like a great life lesson with my artistic practice, is going, okay, I've got an hour today, I've got an hour tomorrow. And then even when things don't feel done, going, okay, I'm just going to park it and I'm going to come back to it. And the world's not going to end if it's
Mm.
not finished right now.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think it's really smart to think actually at the moment, the pressures of, reaching deadlines with a gallery is not actually going to be sort of great for your family dynamic or, how you feel about your practice, or actually sort of having that moment where you make a conscious decision that that's not the best approach at the moment, and you can come back
Yeah.
to that. Yeah.
It does feel a little bit like, I think it feels a little bit scary, because so much of me wants to go yes to everything and to give everybody everything and to dive in, because I think part of me, I think this fear that maybe the opportunities are going to slip by, or I don't know, like this mindset of like things need to get done or they might not happen at all. And I feel like I've had to be a little bit brave in being like, okay, I'm just going to have to, like, I want to prioritize my family. They're first and foremost, and have faith that these opportunities are still going to be there. And like, if they're meant for me, they're going to be there at
Yeah.
the end of this. And I'm just going to continue showing up and continue doing what I'm doing. Um, yeah. And I think at the end of it, like, I just, again, like I love my work, but my work comes out of being a mum and being present with my children. And I don't think it would be the same if I didn't invest so much time in my family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can really see that, the connection with your work and then the life that you're living at the moment. So it'd be really interesting to see how that evolves as your family evolves. And it's lovely for
Yeah.
you to be able to look back at it and think, yeah, that was that time,
Yes.
which is really lovely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well,
Thank
we're going
you.
to wrap it up. I'm not going to do the questions today. Do you mind?
Okay. No,
Or
I
do
don't
you?
mind. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't
I
mind.
mean, the questions, we're sort of fluid with the questions. So I
Yeah.
feel like we've touched on most of the answers for the questions anyway, which is really good. So
Cool.
I've really enjoyed meeting you, Katie. I knew that I would like you. There's this, I mean,
Oh,
I like all the people I speak to, but there was something about the way you present yourself through social media and your work that I just felt really drawn to. And it was so interesting to go in quite deep with your process. So thank you very much. I really look forward to seeing all the things that you're going to achieve. And good luck with the building projects. That's very exciting. And yeah, thanks
th-
so much for being on the podcast.
thank you so much, Mandy. Yeah, like I really love talking to you. You're so easy and open to chat to, and some really great thought thought-provoking questions, and I've really enjoyed, even for myself, breaking down everything and being able to articulate everything. So I really appreciate the way that you can draw that out, and you've naturally got a great talent for this. So yeah, I really enjoyed chatting with you. So thank you so much for having me on this.